So sometimes you don't even realize that you are drained, depleted, or detached. Did you hear me? Sometimes you don't always realize that, especially as you're getting things done. And then sometimes you may think by waiting for the last minute to do something, you're like, oh, this is where I get my energy from. But that is not the thing that's going to keep you up, you know, to allow you to um, continue to go. Because the thing is that especially y'all as purpose-driven women, for those of us who have a calling, for those of us who are like, hey, I am here for the people. You're so used of, to be honest, of running on empty. You're functioning depleted. And then not only that, y'all, our society really honor that. That's a badge of honor. Oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And despite all of that, it's for the goodness, but then you end. Don't even get me started. Do not get me started. Because one thing to keep in mind is that you can be drained, depleted, your capacity can be declining way before your productivity stops, way before, I want to say, you run out of gas. You know what I mean? So today, 3 points we're going to make. Learn early capacity signals. Functioning is not equal capacity. Just because you're functioning doesn't mean that your capacity cup is filled. And reboot before burnout. Because over here, we're all about being proactive and preventative. And this is how put it like this, in order for you to give back to your community, to be of service, is for you to be of service to yourself so that you can give to yourself. Because gone are the days where we're doing all of this hustling and grinding and serving without sitting down and taking a break. We all have been guilty of it. I have even been guilty of it at some point in our lives. But in order for you to truly serve, we talk about, not to serve from an empty cup, but also you want to make sure that you're refilling and refueling your cup as well. And so these are some of the early signs. Learn the early signs of your capacity signals, meaning pay attention to yourself, because y'all, your body, your senses, your being really be telling you some things. You're going to hear about my story soon. But one of the ways that you can tell is the fact that you don't have the energy that you usually have. You may be snappy. You may not have the patience that you usually have. Again, you're irritable. You're procrastinating more. We know that that can come from something else too, but that is a key as well. And again, you may not be able to complete the assignments or the tasks or really be present as you used to as well. The other thing is you're constantly tired. And this one is one that I had to think about myself, is that you are beginning to withdraw. And when I was preparing for this, and I'm like, ooh, because we've heard of high functioning depression as well. And there are some things that can really overlap. And so, but this is also telling you that sometimes you can be doing a whole lot, but you're not replenishing yourself. And we're going to stop doing that because as purpose-driven women, we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. And especially for those of us who are responsible, first daughters, and all of this, let's down, down, down on the dime. That's not what I'm trying to say. But with all of this, what this means is when you have a practice, when you're taking notice, you will pay attention to these things. And on, or I just say, then I'm going to also show you too, uh, I just say something that can really, really, really be, very beneficial. But if anything, y'all, do not be asking yourself, what's wrong with me? I can't do this. I used to be able to do all of this. First of all, I'm going to say if you were able to do all of that when you were younger, you had less stressors. And then you look at the information that you have now, your brain didn't have all of the information that you have now. And then you're talking about something 10, 15, 20 years ago. You were different at that particular time. Yeah, you probably had more energy, but again, with the load that you have, the mental load, the emotional load, the financial load wasn't attached to you at that particular time. Most of you were probably just beginning your own life. So do not compare yourself to how you used to be. Now, if you're comparing yourself, I'm going to say like the past 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, then we're on to something. But you're not going to compare yourself to how you were again 10, 15, 20 years ago because you were a different person. It's like, oh, I used to be able to do all of these things. And one thing I realized when I used to do that myself, it's like, oh, Sharon, that was like so many years ago. And then not only that, you know what I'm saying? All those things that I did, I shouldn't have been doing all of that all in one day anyway. You know what I mean? And so the second part of it is functioning, y'all. It's not the same as capacity. Like even though you are functioning, your capacity can still have a leak. You can still be drained, deleted. You can still be drained, depleted, and detached or becoming detached for yourself because that is what can happen when you're just going. And so you can still lead a meeting. You can still be the head of whatever department that you're in. You can still run your business. You can still, be a parent, be a spouse. You can still do all of those things and your well is running dry because you're not adding to it. And we want to make sure that you're adding to it. And so do not mistake because of the fact that you are showing up, because some of you are showing up on empty or very near empty. And again, we're not doing that anymore because of the fact, you know why? That's not honoring yourself. It's not honoring your temple because as we are doing God's work, we got to honor ourselves as well. It's not just in doing the work itself. Part of the work is the work that we do on ourselves. And so just because, you're meeting a deadline, you can say, okay, let's say you're procrastinating, wait until the last moment, you don't have the motivation. You're like, oh, well, I got it done. But how often do you do that? Do you do that with every task? Not every, but with a lot of tasks, with a lot of projects, more often than not. And again, you can still be depleted. You can still be depleted even though you're getting things done. Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know. Because the thing is, you can get the accolades and everybody's like, oh, you got all of this done. And you can feel good about it. But the thing is that if you continue to do that over and over and over again, it is draining you, it is depleting you, and you can become detached from yourself if you continue to do that. And so ask yourself this question again. We're not going to ask, what is wrong with me? We're not going to ask. We're going to ask, what's missing or what do you need? And not what's missing with you, but it's more so what you need. But the next question that you do ask yourself is, what is it costing you if you continue to function in this way? Because, like for those of you who work, in corporations and in different environments, especially where there are projects and deadlines, and it's pretty much, it's like you get all of these things done, and then sometimes you can crash. But most of the time, there's another project to be done, or sometimes there multiple projects at the same time. And to be honest, we cannot be running at that capacity for extended period of time, because if you do that, again, your well will run dry, your energy would be low, you would be drained, you would be depleted, and you can start separating yourself from yourself, and we don't want that at all. Now, the next one is you're going to reboot before it burn out. You're going to reboot before you burn out. And I want to say that when I've experienced, I like to say I hadn't experienced burnout, but been on the verge of burnout. And I'll get to that. Let me make sure I stay focused here. Again, you do not want, it's like you don't want burnout and it's like, oh, I'm going to set a boundary. We don't want that. You don't want burnout to become your boundary. You want to be able to set a boundary to prevent burnout. That is how you are being proactive. Because again, if you are not protecting the most treasured individual who has ever been born, who is going to be able to do that? Yes, it feels good when somebody else is able to advocate for us and protect us, but at the end of the day, we're here to protect our own selves. And so you do that by setting a boundary. And sometimes, y'all, you got to set a boundary with yourself. That is one reason sometimes you may have a hard time of setting boundaries with others, because you're not even setting a boundary for yourself. So that is going to be the thing that's going to lead you, or at least not lead you, to the road of burnout. Because when you honor your own time, your own energy, your own mental and physical and spiritual and even financial resources, when you are able to do that, then you are able to prevent at least burnout, and where you're not always going on the edge. And so if for those of you who are familiar with me, I always say, you can sit in silence, you can take that deep breath, or you can move, you can dance, you can do yoga, you can do martial arts, whatever that is for you, you can do that as well. And then you can set a boundary and definitely get that rest. You know what I mean? And y'all, especially for those of us who are high functioning, and y'all, this is something I am still working on, is asking for help. It's getting support. It's asking for guidance. And sometimes you're able to do that in certain arenas, but learn to really to be able to do that in whatever area that it is. That is not a weakness, y'all. It is not a weakness. I mean, you would be glad to go and help someone else, but you would not go and help, ask for help for yourself. You volunteer help and support for others, but how about volunteering and asking for help for yourself? Because that can help take the load off. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone else will be doing something for you, but one, sometimes just to be able to tell someone, meaning that Therapy can be beneficial to that because there can be some deeper root causes for that. But then you may need a coach to kind of help guide you, with different techniques and exercises that can help you with that. And the other thing is in sitting in silence, sometimes just to be, just to be yourself, just to be able to sit outside or stand outside by the trees, to be able to just listen to music, whatever that is for you, to be able to do those things. Because again, the goal isn't to intervene. Well, I'm going to say this. The goal is to intervene before depletion. All of this is proactive. And one thing I like to tell my clinical clients is that this is a lifestyle. It's like breathing, intentional breathing, sitting in silence, having time with yourself. No one told us, I'm going to say people probably did tell us. I want to say our ancestors told us, but it's kind of like things have gotten written off. These are not just, option to do. They're necessary. So I want these to become non-negotiable for you. You know what I mean? And so I can remember a time in my life where, and this was more so when my stepdad had his heart attack, because when my stepdad had his heart attack, my mom, she had already gone through the hysterectomy, the stroke, and the 90 days in the hospital. um and I can't even remember exactly when she had that second surgery. Oh my. But anyway, you all would get that eventually. And for those of you, who have been following me, and if you, go in TikTok, I do have that story in there. But when my stepdad had his heart attack, I felt like at that particular time, I was just at the beginning, I want to say, of feeling much better. Like after the breakup, I had a busy job. I was working in emergency services at that particular time. And one thing that I would say is that, like when you're caring for other people, when you have like pretty much busy work, or when crises come up for yourself, is that pay attention to yourself. And one thing that I can say at that particular time in my life, I was pretty much beginning to have more capacity builders. Now, I didn't, have that language for it, even as a therapist at that particular time in my life. But because I had already had yoga and meditation introduced in my life, those things are definitely things that have helped me get through. And so when it comes to movement, when it comes to meditation, when it comes to being in silence, of having different things to help restore you. Because I can definitely remember one time, like I said, I don't know what was going on, but one thing that I will say is that energy healing is one thing that helped get me through something as well, especially I want to say with my heart. um and it's like my heart was heavy. I would just say it was just some negative energy. And so the whole point is, y'all, is to continuously to pour into yourself. It's like to add to your capacity bank, because no one expected my stepdad to have a heart attack. You know what I'm saying? No one expected my mom to be in the hospital for between hospital, ICU, and rehab for 90 days. No one expected her to have a stroke. And so, with all of these unexpected crisis and the uncertainty of these things, when you feel your capacity bank, because one, you do it anyway, But when it comes to crisis and chaos and challenges, it helps to prepare. Now, it doesn't prevent it, and it doesn't mean you're not going to feel a certain kind of way, but it sure does help you. It helps you, one, to fill that cup, to fill in the gaps and in the leaks that you have, and so that you won't be as depleted. Now, the other thing I want to make sure I share with y'all is that one thing that I've seen very clear, and this is one of the reasons why I started doing this work. For anyone who have been following me for a while, I was like, self-care this, self-care that. It's still all about self-care, and self-care is how you feel, cultivate your capacity. But one thing that I've seen over and over and over again, in that I've seen a lot of people in distress. And a lot of times it is because after almost like a breakup, after certain things, because it's not always where it was, anxiety and depression. And most people end up seeking help when distress becomes, you just can't ignore the distress, but they've been experiencing it for a while, and it's really become to the breaking point as well. But some of it can be preventable. Not the stressor itself, not the crisis itself, not the challenges itself can be preventable, but how you're navigating through it can be preventable. Some of it. Because like I said, after the breakup, I felt like I was crying for 40 days and 40 nights. My heart was broken. I was like, I don't believe this. You know what I'm saying? But even though I did go to therapy, but I'm like, this isn't helping. Because talk therapy sometimes is not, when it's only talk therapy, sometimes it's not as beneficial, especially when it comes to grief. It helps, but some type of embodiment or somatic practice is necessary, because we are a whole being. Everything isn't just in our head. And so you don't have to wait until things become unmanageable before you pay attention to your capacity. Continually fill that up. So just because, and don't be psyching yourself up, oh, I'm getting this done, I'm getting that done. But just make sure you take the time to rest and restore, because again, gone are the days when what? You're just like, hey, I'm just doing all of this. No, you got to have the energy to be able to do it. Motivation alone is not going to be the thing that's going to help you. So check in as you are checking in on others, check in with yourself. How am I doing with everything? And the other thing that I do want to point out is what I recognize is that even though I had some practices, some rituals and routines in place when my stepdad had his heart attack, I was living out of state, and I was back and forth, to my hometown and everything. And I wouldn't change a thing of how I was supporting them. Of course not. They're my parents. Would not change a thing. But the one thing that I would change, I would say just do more of it. Because I was doing some, but I slept a lot. And sometimes sleeping in of itself doesn't always restore you. It's the intentional breathing, the intentional movement, the intentional of being sitting in silence, intentional of going out, hanging out with friends, of connecting with others in different ways. And so I definitely wanted to point that out. So if anything that I said has resonated with you, you're like, Sharon, what is all of this thing about capacity? If you want to learn more about capacity, go ahead and comment capacity or DM me so that you can learn more about it. And better yet, come on inside Fortitude and Free Circle, because we're all about, there it's not just about learning, being knowledgeable, it's practicing, putting things in place. That's not going on my eye, y'all. So pay attention, it's like, what is your mind? What is your body? What is your spirit? What is your soul? What is your body trying to tell you? Pay attention, y'all. Pay attention. But anyway, I really do appreciate you all, who's been here live. And then for those of you who want to get the replay, you can pretty much go to YT in order to get that. And I will see y'all later.